AskReddit by Key Transito. What are your thoughts on legalizing marijuana? 90% of people who wanna use cannabis already do regardless of legality. Places who haven't legalized are just missing out on taking advantage of the tax dollar sign they could make off it. Also, getting OSHA involved is probably a good move. Why are people against it? When it was up for debate here in Montana prior to recreational legalization, the state GOP did a lot of fear-mongering. Essentially, their argument was that if it became legal, our state would become a weed smoke-filled, Doritos-munching hellhole where no one would ever have a job. After it became legal, none of that happened. Tax revenues were soaring, and it quietly became a non-issue. Science shows it's safer than alcohol. You can't really overdose on cannabis. And it causes considerably less crimes compared to alcohol. There's not any version of drunken rage for cannabis. Tell that to my fridge. I'd support it. I think it should be legalized. Helps a lot of people. And it'd help more if people knew exactly what they're smoking. As long as restrictions on where you can smoke it are at least as strict as with regular cigarettes, I wouldn't mind. In most places, at least where I am, if you can't smoke tobacco, you also can't smoke weed there. That's in almost all public places. Best damn thing that happened in Canada. Heard they got good dope there, boys. While I still don't want to use it, it should be legal. It was only ever outlawed in the USA for racist bullshit and to save justify careers after the spectacular failure that was prohibition. It was kept that way so the government could have free rein to arrest protesters and break up their right to free speech. It is no worse than alcohol or tobacco and should be regulated and taxed to become a benefit to the country as a whole. Keeping it illegal only helps support the immoral, disgusting industry of for-profit prisons by providing them more people to incarcerate. The government is currently trying to ban tobacco in the UK, as are a number of other places. Most of the issues in regards to alcohol is excessive consumption rather than used to. I'd love to smoke it freely, TBH. Doing that right now in Nick. I think as a whole it is a net negative to society. I would also say the same thing about alcohol. I do think there are some medical benefits to marijuana, but again, overall a net negative to general culture in that it will ruin more lives than it ever helps. That being said, I don't think it's generally the government's jobs to decide what is good or bad for us. So overall I'm pro legalization. I also feel the same way about sports gambling. Overall it is bad for society. Absolutely going to ruin some lives. But the government is not supposed to be our babysitter. Marijuana has therapeutic medicinal attributes, unlike liquor and cigarettes, which are pretty much poisons and legal. Not to be too pedantic because I agree with you, but alcohol has sanitization, sedative, and pain relieving properties. I'd see if people do it, but I wish they'd limit where people can do it. I hate the smell and I don't want the smell to be all over the outdoors. Legalize it and use the tax money for schools and housing. You'd think Canada would have figured this out by now, but our housing prices are insane. No one can afford one and our education system is shit. It definitely should be used legalized in medical treatments. It should just be legalized completely. We are spending a lot of money and resources enforcing laws that are either being ignored or easily circumvented. Tax it and move on. People are getting it anyways, legalize it, so you can regulate it. It's safer that way. Same applies to prostitution. I agree with legalizing weed, but that logic is ridiculous. It's like saying people are gonna use crack anyways, why not legalize it? Or like people are gonna commit murder anyways, why not legalize it? Weed is so much better than alcohol in so many ways. Alcohol is legal. So weed should be legal. I'm not against it, but I've grown apprehensive over the years if I'm being totally honest. The long-term harmful effects are pretty under-discussed, giving the idea that it's completely harmless compared to alcohol or nicotine. I also don't feel fully comfortable with the idea of more and more mind-altering or addictive substances being freely and easily accessible for recreational use. They're very easy to abuse. Only problem I have with it is everywhere that is legalized smells like it everywhere you go. I don't want that. Otherwise I support it. That's why edibles are even better. You eat something delicious. Little while later you're talking fan theories about how Luke Skywalker was actually Pink Floyd all along. And there's no smell. Totally fine with it in principle, but I dislike the smell, so don't particularly like it. If alcohol is legal, weed should be as well. It is a waste of money to lock up pot smokers. They don't harm themselves or others. The only crime is related to it being illegal. All for it, but local communities should get to decide if or how many weed shops open in their neighborhoods. We haven't even fully legalized here in Nick, and weed shops have multiplied like locusts already. Also, life sentence in the gulag for lighting up on the train. I'm surprised it's not legal more places. It's been legal here in Canada for a long time and it's no different than going to liquor store. The biggest users seem to be seniors. It was weird buying weed in Quebec. The edibles were in pill form. We asked if they had gummies or something similar. The guy laughed at me and said that not everything needs sugar. Total culture shift than in the US. Should have never been illegal in the first place.